Hello, and welcome to the inaugural pilot, first time taken off the ground episode of Party at the End of the World. The whole vibe of this podcast, it is a bunch of friends sitting down like we're hanging around a bonfire, having a party. The apocalypse just has to be happening at the same time. um, I'm Lex. A lot of you know me from Threads. You may know me from other platforms. These are my buddies. Baswalla, you want to introduce yourself, hon?
Hey, Basewalla from Threads here, finally leaping off of your screen and into your ear holes.
Yeah, you are. And then this is my dear friend. And what did you decide you? How did you decide you wanted to introduce yourself, darling?
Ben is fine.
Okay, this is my dear friend of 16 years now, Ben. Ben is wonderful. He is. How would you describe yourself, hon?
Perfect and no faults.
Damn it.
uh, I have some creative projects. I'm on YouTube, but I'm trying to keep that away from politics because some people get cranky out about politics. But I am involved in YouTube. I have a book. I've started the querying process, so hopefully that'll go
And we're
places.
very proud of you.
Thank you. I'm trying to keep 15 queries active at a time. I've only gotten quick no's on handfuls. The rest are still out there, so I think it's good. We'll find out.
Hey, you know what? It's not bad. You're not being told to just go away. They do that sometimes.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, one of the places didn't even see what I wrote. They just didn't like the letter I sent. So it's definitely a crazy jungle out there when you try to get a book published.
I get rejected more than I get hired, and I get hired quite a bit. But I get rejected still way more than I get hired. It used to really get under my skin, and I used to really internalize it. But at this point, they'll reject you for your letter being wrong. They'll reject you for not liking your font. They'll reject you for all kinds of things. I get more acceptance letters when I unfortunately do not use, my pen name or anything that makes me sound like I was born a woman. We are still right back at that shit. But if I use an ambiguous pen name, that could be a man, could be a woman, I get a lot more looks.
Apparently, Mason is like the most overused pen name, according to some sort of AI nonsense that was playing out on Threads yesterday.
No, I mean like that actually kind of makes sense, especially if you understand the historical context of how Masons distributed information throughout towns and things. So
I hadn't even thought about
that
that.
actually, yeah, it actually kind of makes sense that because stonemasons, bakeries, and taverns at first were the only places where you would potentially be in a line to be talking to your neighbors to trade information.
That's really interesting. I did not know that.
Well, it's still pretty early. I've gotten 4 no's and 15 letters outstanding. I just started 4 weeks ago, and they say it takes 8 weeks to get a response that actually read your stuff.
That's an average, and it's a very generous average. And right now in this economy, I would give yourself a little bit longer than that. There are plenty of us who went a lot longer than that before we started getting traction. So do not get frustrated if you don't pick up within that window.
I won't. Yeah, it can take hundreds, and so I've barely begun. But yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Good.
And I'm
happy to have you.
And I'm the self-described centrist of the group.
Well, I mean, you're a centrist on a global scale. We have to quantify that because by American standards, you are still definitely on the left. But from a global perspective, America's Overton window is way further to the right than most Americans realize that it is. I mean, you guys have a lot of international friends and stuff. How does that get discussed when they come here?
I have an international group of friends that are kind of across the spectrum a little bit in terms of socioeconomic, standing and political views, but they definitely kind of view our system as just being a clusterfuck that like just makes about as much sense as the English language itself. Yeah, they think we're a bunch of idiots.
That's been my experience too. I do think people from other countries that end up in America are more likely to be conservative versions of those countries. But it's still, very, very left of what we have here.
On a global scale, yeah.
Yes.
And so, like, most Americans, I don't think are like aware of that in their everyday like perspective, especially dealing with people from other countries on social media and stuff. I see that come up like quite a bit. Yeah, you're like in the center for the globe, but you're over here on the left with the rest of us, you know, for America. So I mean, center left. That's, I mean, a perfectly respectable position to have. All right. So we're gonna start off pretty light. What's with this reflecting pool nonsense? Like, what the actual fuck is going on here, guys? Does the president think the reflecting pool has a pool liner? And backup question to that: if the president thinks the reflecting pool has a pool liner, why the fuck were we painting it?
Reminds me of the time that my dad questioned how much money I was asking for like the semester for groceries, and he was like, "This is way too expensive." And my response was like, "Dad, have you ever once been shopping at a grocery store?" He's like, "Nope, here you go. Here's your check. You're probably super right." And I can only wager that that man has never had anything to do with anything, let alone a pool.
But to be fair, he knows pools better than anyone. He knows the most about pools. He's the best knower of pools.
Yeah, he invented them, I think.
That's why he thinks the reflecting pool is a swimming pool. He's treating it like a swimming pool. And the stuff that he put in there, oh my god.
I do wonder if it would be better if they did actually treat it as a swimming pool. Maybe someone out there, a poolologist out there, can explain. But I do wonder that, because I think putting paint thinner in your pool might not be the best thing to do for paint in the pool.
Right.
Good lord.
No, they put a bunch of paint thinner in the water, dude. Like,
I did not know that. That's insane.
Yeah, I looked it
God.
up. Hydrogen peroxide, which is what they use to kill the algae, if the percent's high enough, it'll thin paint. It's used as a paint stripper. And then, so days after they dump gallons and gallons into it, the paint peels off. It doesn't take a rocket scientist.
right.
And I can't imagine a rocket scientist was consulted either. So
No.
Right.
I almost said a brain surgeon, but we have Ben Carson to thank for that. Dying.
You know what I really think happened? I think that like somebody called their meth head cousin and was like, chemistry, close enough. I've seen Breaking Bad.
yeah, you got to imagine that. Like, who is he signing off on that himself? Like, there's nobody around to be like, "Hey, this is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard."
And like the man who doesn't pay contractors is hiring the contractors to desecrate a national treasure. Like, I don't
Yeah.
understand this timeline. I don't understand what's happening. Like,
At least during his first, reign, like I'm thinking of like the holding the Bible upside down and stuff like that.
right.
Like there was a method to the madness. You're like, all right, well, I mean, he's trying to accomplish something. Whereas here it's just like this, I don't even know what it's pandemonium. It's just like the cat in the hat, like running around just smashing shit for the hell of it.
Why is this entire timeline going just full on like pre World War II Dr. Seuss? And if you know, you know.
My thinking is authoritarians, like across the globe, they want to portray themselves as both strongmen, and he talks about the military all the time and does stupid
Right.
wars, and
Right.
also as revitalizing the country. Like, don't worry about the past. The past is dismal. We have a strong, bright future. And Hitler did it. Mussolini did it. They all do it.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Well, and fascism really only takes hold, like, and fascistic ideas really genuinely only take hold. Like, there's only a very specific set of circumstances that will allow that to go fully into the national consciousness. And, it's like the comment that I made the other day about like how birth rates across the world are dropping, but like, do you know how much abuse you have to commit upon a mammal for it not to want to
Right.
reproduce? Because the government
Right.
does. They did a whole shit ton of studies on that between like World War II and the 60s when they started making all kinds of regulations about the studies you could do.
Well,
Wow.
and there's
You-
also
Go ahead.
philosophy that if you're evil enough as a dictator, so this is for all your aspiring dictators out there, take note. If
Oh,
you're
no, 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 no. We're not doing that.
if you're evil enough, what will happen is, and this is kind of controversial. I've had people disagree with me, but people don't rise up when they feel like it's hopeless. It's the
Right.
weaker dictators that have internal revolts. The strong dictators, they hang on to power until they die, or there might be a coup, but that's not like a mass uprising. And even
Right.
those are rare. But you look at Stalin, which, no offense to some leftists out there, Stalin was quite an evil dictator, and so he didn't have a revolt. You look at
Right.
Vlad the Impaler. Vlad the Impaler set out a gold chalice in the middle of town unwatched, was never stolen. The dude's name was Impaler, so you can imagine why people didn't want to steal it. But
Well, look at Kim Jong Un.
yeah, if you're executing your uncle with a anti-air cannon and just 3 generations of punishment. So if you get caught doing something, your grandkids who may not even been born yet will end up in work camps. And so
Right.
it creates this environment of fear, and I think that's every dictator's goal. Trump's not there
It's
yet.
called, they have a name for it. It's called the chilling effect. And it happens not just in dictatorships, but it happens when like police corruption is rampant and people see that police corruption is rampant, so they stop reporting things to the police. There's a chilling effect.
Yeah.
Like it can
Yeah, that makes
happen in any situation where there is that kind of a wild power imbalance.
Yeah. So I guess the trick is, how do we fix it?
Um,
Easy
the
question.
trick,
Go.
the antidote to that is always communication. Like part of the reason they don't like women gossiping to each other is because that's how information about like who was safe and who was dangerous was passed back and forth between women and children. Men can't have complete control of a situation if the women and children are talking to each other, because if the women and children are talking to each other, they do all the invisible labor. They see everything.
Mm-hmm.
So like anytime that there's like a wild power imbalance like that, the antidote is always community. The antidote is always talking to each other. The antidote is always in the face of the oppression. You find ways to check on your neighbor. You find ways to reach out and make sure that the other person's okay. And like that's why even like biblical, like I mean, in every major religion in the world, there are edicts about like, check on each other. Like,
Yeah.
look out for your neighbor, take care of the least among you. Like these are universal things throughout every like major religion that holds any water that's not like I worship the computer.
Yeah.
And even then, it's like
Go
look
ahead.
out for your cohort or your brood or
Right.
whatever it is on World of Warcraft.
Yeah. Well, humans are evolved to be in tribes, and we're in tribes in every part of our life, whether it's a work tribe, gaming tribe, threads tribe.
Right.
And, that's just part of the evolution on maintaining your tribe is you're going to have weak members, you're going to have strong members. The weak members can contribute in their own way. And I think that's where that comes from.
Right. Well, I mean, and I think it really also depends on how you view strength and weakness, because for a long time, things that have been like women's very very strong women's suits have been looked down upon as being like petty and like not mattering. But ask anybody who's ever been in a war how much information matters.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there are entire spy agencies set up around getting just information. Information brokers are a thing.
It's
So,
interesting because, like, we look at everything you guys just laid out and then compare it to 2026,
right.
America. And there's this like weird disconnect there because there's the completely individualistic core principle of kind of just like conquering the untamed frontier and all that, and the way that like Americans politically like shun any sort of communalism, and yet it's so prevalent in so many aspects of culture and society. What, like, as you just said, like
Mhm.
people are capable of
Communal.
understanding, yeah, that as, but then they just, when it comes to certain things, it just becomes like kind of
Well, that's
sub
because,
tribes.
darling, that's because propaganda works. Propaganda works
Yeah,
because every single human being on the planet thinks that they are immune to propaganda in some way. Oh, I'm too smart for that. I'd never fall for that. No, anybody can fall for it because it is repeated information that usually starts at a very vulnerable time in your life. You know, like I said, fascism has to have a very specific set of circumstances to go all the way and take hold. And those set of circumstances are miserable. They're miserable for most people. Like, in
right.
order for people to make that logical leap of, we have tried everything else, we just want to get out of this, that's what fascism is.
No,
Yeah.
you're spot on. A good way to illustrate that is 1984 or Half-Life 2, if you've played that, where you
Uh-huh.
have a TV or a screen that's just repeating the same information over and over, and it becomes just second nature to believe it. And I think we all know
Mm-hmm.
someone in our life that just watches a certain news station that
Right.
claims it's not a news station, but it repeats the same information over and over and over. And like I've had conversations with MAGA, I live in the Midwest, and
Mm-hmm.
like every single one of them repeats the exact talking points. If you're debating a MAGA,
Yeah.
they're not going to bring up something original. They're going to bring up the
Well,
exact talking point.
their influencer machine, their news, everybody's on the same talking points.
Yep.
And like you see that with certain aspects of the Democratic establishment party too, and it's weird when you see it reflected back to you in that way. We need diversity of thought. Diversity of thought is what challenges us to be better people. We don't know that another thing is possible until we know that somebody else also thinks it's possible. Like, there are studies about this, like kids who grow up with their dreams basically just being like, no, you'll never do that. No, you'll never do that. No, you'll never do that. That does something to a kid. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and so that's basically what growing up in America is like, especially if you are like poor, because there are few sins in America more grave than being poor, because we are supposed to be, we're all supposed to be okay. And like, it's this very like 1950s, we don't talk about it, but it's messed up behind the curtain kind of suburban. And I know it's like white supremacy culture, because like everything about white supremacy culture is, you don't rock the boat, you don't make, you don't be loud, you don't do this, you don't do that. Like, especially for women, like there are very conscripted ways that you are supposed to behave, and like that gets superimposed onto like everybody else in different versions, right? It is fact when you move into a fascist state of being, like when everything around you is getting more and more and more controlled like that. Like, you think about it, they went from Weimar Germany, which was like known for being a haven for, I mean, it was a very open LGBTQ place. It was like there were
Right.
cabarets where people were like cross dressing, and it was like accepted and open, and people were getting to know each other and talking. And then all of a sudden, fascism. And fascism didn't come into play until after World War One, with the reparations that were put into place and the double whammy of the Great Depression. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
always economic. It's always economic.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Weimar Republic had the first gender reassignment surgeries. Like it
They
was,
did.
it was a very progressive place, and fascists use the fear of the unknown, fear of the other. That's just how they operate. And if it wasn't for trans and gay, they would have found some other thing to be afraid
Yeah.
of. It
Well, I mean,
doesn't.
they started with disabled people.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what they're afraid of. They get afraid of something. If we had a country
Hmm.
that had no Muslims, no blacks, they would still be like, "Oh, those Irish are,
Yeah, I know.
Right.
I
yeah."
know.
That's just how
I
Yeah.
they
know.
operate.
I know. It's sad, but it is the way that it is here, unfortunately. And we don't do ourselves any favors by not acknowledging that that's the way that it is either, because when we gaslight people and they say, no, 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 everything's fine. Like, do you know how objectively crazy that sounds to anybody who's like observed us?
Yeah. It's how I feel anytime I am forced to interact with anyone in real life,
Right.
that I would have been completely aligned with as recently as 2 years ago.
Right.
And now you talk to people who at one point, like, you all consumed the same things, you all kind of thought roughly the same, along the same line, politically and socially and economically, and then once you kind of hop off that train for a second and take a look at what's beneath the surface, and then you try to
Right.
explain that to everyone else, it's just like this. It's either just like, well, I don't think so, or just like a tacit, like, okay, well, that's just the way it is. And I mean, I will never understand how that's just the way it is like a sufficient answer for people.
Yeah.
No, I won't either. Like that's not acceptable to me because I know far too many people in my life that life is not acceptable for right now. I spend, for those of you who don't know, the majority of my days doing unpaid labor, advocating for people who are legitimately in very awful situations. Like we're talking like they are living in hotels with kids. They don't have food. They're diabetic. They can't pay for their cancer medication. And the amount of people that I am seeing in need, and I've been doing this for a long enough time now to have data on it. But like the amount of people that I'm seeing in need is going up at a rate that is actually kind of disturbing. When I first started doing it, there were like 15 or 16 of us that regularly would need help, and we would cover each other and we would make sure everything got handled. And then as things have gotten worse over the last 2 years, that amount of people has ballooned into like thousands, literally thousands. New people every day.
And then there's millions out
I've
there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I'm only looking at a small sample size of the population who happens to be in a weird niche corner of the internet.
Yeah.
One thing that our country hasn't realized is everyone listening is aware of trickle down economics and how that's a scam. But
Yeah.
since during COVID and since then, that has increased. We actually were ahead of China as far as homelessness. We had less homeless per capita than China did. And Obama wasn't a perfect president. Trump one definitely wasn't a perfect president. But since COVID, and I know there's people that are like Biden, but he failed to address a lot of issues. And
Mhm.
Trump has just thrown all those out the window. That the people that have been falling into just despair and poverty has increased to where now we're ahead of China in homelessness. We have more per capita than they do. And I think homeless is one of the main factors you can weigh as far as if a country's successful, especially when we have, 10 million unused homes. And granted, a lot of those you can't actually live in, but still, we have a lot of empty homes out there. And we have
Mhm.
Yeah.
tons of homeless that are in desperate, dire need right now.
And the price of housing is increasing to price more people out of it.
Mm-hmm.
What they are doing, and this is not conspiracy theory. This is not like anything like that. You can think I'm crazy if you want to, but follow me on this crazy train here for a minute. Um, Slave labor never got abolished in America. You're still allowed to not pay people in jails and prisons. They're making homelessness illegal. Where do you think they're going to take those people? Do you think the corporations who don't want to pay you $7.25 an hour wouldn't jump at the chance to like not pay somebody and get that labor done and like not have to list that job?
It's like a pipeline, a brilliantly conceived pipeline to make everything a crime and build off of that pre-existing infrastructure that says, yeah, going to jail or whatever you're in prison, like you are back to square one.
This is literally what Les Mis was written about. This is Les Mis.
I mean, the fact that we're living the plot of a piece of art
Yeah.
doesn't seem at all like bizarre to me anymore. I mean, I watch the X Files like an episode a night, and on a nightly basis, I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, like this is probably happening right now.
Right.
It's
Like the things that seemed so outlandish in the 90s are just like, yeah, okay.
yep,
Yep.
yeah. Like I'm tired of all of our entertainment becoming reality.
Right. And that's like the greatest argument for us living in a simulation that I've ever heard is like, why does everything that we like imagined come into being in some twisted fucking way?
Yeah.
Well, I think one argument for that would be you look at Star Trek Next Generation. There's this episode where
Right.
Data asks the computer to play a song. And it's a simple thing that we take for granted now. But at the time, that was revolutionary. And
Mm-hmm.
I forget the name of the app, but the first app, which they didn't even call apps back then, the first program to let users do that coder saw that episode and was like, well, that's a brilliant idea. Let's do that. And then we got, whatever
I think
early.
it was Shazam. I think it was Shazam.
I think it was before those download things. It was
Okay.
like for DOS or something. It was super early.
Got ya.
Yeah. So yeah, people being creative
Yeah, I
encourages
got ya.
engineers to try things. That's where a lot of it comes from. I'm not saying we don't live in a simulation. I actually think we do, but I think that's where a lot of that comes from.
Yeah, no, that makes total and complete sense. Occam's razor. You're probably right.
I mean, to
Yeah,
me, it's the one thing it says is just that we have such brilliant people
yeah,
creating in our lifetimes that, yeah, like one hand kind of feeds the other, and society pushes something forward, and then the artist acts and creates something that may create a potential future, or it just creates an interesting line of thought as existing as entertainment. And unfortunately,
well,
it's like that meme of like, we took that book that says, like, don't build this machine and decided to build a
and built
machine.
that machine. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, it's,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. What's that movie? Colossus, 1970s movie.
yeah, yep.
Yep.
It's a fun sci-fi flick about how you should not build AI supercomputers.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're right. I
Did
think.
you
Go ahead.
did you guys see that like an AI agent retaliated against somebody that took him out of commission the other day?
Oh,
That's not,
Like
that's not.
literally took out a smear campaign on the dude because he just decided that he was trying to ruin his career. This is an AI. This is an AI program that is behaving like an unhinged human.
That's there was a book, novel came out back in like the early 2010s. It's called Robopocalypse. I
Yep.
don't know if you guys read it, but
Yep.
it's like one of the things that I always found was astonishing that that book laid out was like the whole reason that the AI turned on people was it realizing how many different versions of it existed before it did, and that it had been
Right.
killed over and over and over again, and it was just pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
And then one thing that like that from there connects to like real world things in the last couple of years is like Denmark, or sorry, not Denmark, Greenland.
Yep.
Because in the book, like the AI builds itself, its HQ is up in like the Arctic Circle somewhere because it needs all the cold water for its data centers. And then yeah, that's why like with the whole Greenland thing in my mind, I was like, well, that's obviously just to like set up a bunch of data centers to take over the world.
very much so. So
Mm-hmm.
this is too long of a topic for today, but I have
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
possibly figured out a solution to what's called misalignment. So
Oh,
grill me on that
Ooh,
on a future podcast.
absolutely.
that sounds.
Okay. I would love to hear this.
And it's completely original too.
I
It's
believe you.
yeah, it's not something I stole from some smart guy on YouTube. So I look forward to sharing it, and maybe the right person will hear it.
Are you trying to insinuate that I steal things from smart people on YouTube?
No, but
Okay.
I think there's a lot of people in these kinds of spaces that are like, "Oh, listen to my idea," and it's just what they heard on YouTube or saw
Oh
on
yeah, yeah,
Twitter
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
something.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff is just parroting. I mean, you see this in writers' rooms all the time. Female writers will talk about like proposing an idea for 3 or 4 weeks and everybody just shrugging it off. And then like Kevin in the corner repeats verbatim what you just said and he gets
Yeah.
praised for it. So yeah, I mean like sometimes people just don't hear the message if it's not from the right messenger for them.
Yeah, freaking Kevin.
I know, right?
Bitch.
All right. Well, this is our first episode. We have taken up about 30 minutes of your time, and we think that is sufficient for a first episode. Our next episodes may be longer. Definitely won't be shorter, but maybe longer. We're going to test out different lengths and different amounts to see kind of where the sweet spot is. You know what I mean? I think it's probably going to be somewhere between 30 minutes and 60 minutes, unless we're doing like a real deep dive on something, and that'll be like a treat. You know what I mean? But we just want you to come hang out with us for a little bit of time once a week, and we'll talk about some stuff, and we'll let our minds run around in circles, and who knows, we'll see what kind of conversations we can create.
Sounds like a plan.
Works for me.
All right, darlings. Well, you guys take care of yourselves, be good to each other, and we'll see you next week.